I believe to celebrate a milestone, we must celebrate the journey.
Dreams. How do you measure a dream? The world doesn't know how to measure a dream. The world just measures achievement. But the truth is this: the measure of a dream doesn't lie in fame or wealth or numbers, but by the last one standing at the end of it. And today, we celebrate the rare journey of one of us who dared to dream. The last one standing. A man who began his journey at a crowded starting line way back in 1995, jostling and pushing for position, who not only survived, but flourished and thrived and pulled together so many fellow journeymen along the way. Partners, believers, runners, sprinters. And soon the journey became a march. We walked shoulder to shoulder, matching step for step with the man who took the first one. The road was long, mostly tough, sometimes smooth, oftentimes rough. We walked rocky paths and tricky wetlands, below dark skies, on burning sands. And through it all, he shared our laughter and our fears. He shared our sweat and our tears. And soon, a journey that started with nothing blossomed into the first true Indian multinational company, spanning 15 countries and hundreds of cities and towns and villages, connecting every man, woman, and child from the remotest corners of India to the deepest parts of sub-Saharan Africa. From nothing emerged a powerful organization led by professionals and backed by an enlightened entrepreneur. From nothing was built an institution admired for governance and transparency and ethics. Till 2016, when we came face to face with our biggest challenge. When every silver lining seemed to come with a cloud, and we were written off in every book. But when we were looking for hope, came inspiration.
But today is my time to ask something from all of you. I've never done this before. I've never done this in 42 years, but I do it today. I ask you to give me 2 years of your life. 2 years, 24 months. I am committing myself 2 more years to stand with this team. And in 2020, which will be the 2 years, we will all go to my favorite estate in Scotland, in Gleneagles.
And today, that journey which started with one man has become all our journeys. The ones who dared to dream, the last ones standing, and also the journey of every single person in our offices back home who stands up with pride and says, I am Airtel.
We're going to call to stage an amazing young lady who's super talented, highly accomplished, and a successful entrepreneur who has invested in many international lifestyle brands. This person, by the way, is also followed by many of you. I know because I've been speaking to a lot of people on the sidelines. So many of us already follow her on her Instagram page. So the story that you're going to hear today from her is titled Through His Daughter's Eyes.
Good evening. Nidhi, thank you so much for that very warm and heartfelt welcome. What a delightful day and a half it has been together at Gleneagles with all of you. It has been so lovely to reconnect with so many familiar faces and to meet so many of you whose names I have heard so often but never had the chance to meet before. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say here today, a story from my childhood came to mind. At first, I have to admit, I hesitated, but then I thought, I must share it. I was very young. I must have been about 6.5 years old. And my class teacher, this very cultured but strict lady, Mrs. Shah she was called, she used to keep us all on our toes by asking us these general knowledge questions. And you know, she would ask, who was the father of the nation? Name the first person that walked the moon. And this one morning, she walked into class and I looked up at the blackboard and she wrote, who invented the telephone? My heart skipped a beat. And I thought, oh, this is really my moment. Of course I knew the answer. I leaped up from my chair with all the confidence in the world and I said, Sunil Bharti Mittal. Mrs. Shah wasn't this amused. She turned around and looked at me very perplexed. And she said, sit down, don't be so foolish. I came home that afternoon. There was no internet or Siri in those days to verify her claim of a gentleman called Alexander Graham Bell. And I remember staring at the cream-colored Beetle push-button telephone in the kitchen in our family's home. And I was very confused. That night, before I went to bed, I actually unplugged the entire instrument from the socket and I shoved it into my school bag. I was ready to go to school the next morning and put up a fight. Such was my belief. Although I've never worked at Airtel, I guess what I'm trying to say is that telecom has always been a part of my life. It is the very essence of my childhood, and it is the very first memory I have of my father. I feel truly privileged that I have been given this opportunity to talk about my father and his life amongst all of you here today. At times, I have to pinch myself that I belong to him. But then I have to remind myself that he belongs not just to me, or even his own family. For his purpose in this lifetime has been to take the road less traveled. That a young boy from Ludhiana, with all the odds stacked against him, defiant, rebellious, uninterested in his studies, he used to dismantle his teachers' motorcycles and cause havoc in the classroom. But by the age of 13 or 14, he's told me, a light bulb went off in his mind. He became aware of his humble beginnings, and he decided to take destiny into his own hands. People often ask me, what does Airtel mean to you, being Sunil Mittal's daughter? A decade ago, I would have said, well, it's a telecom empire, and one that I am very proud of. But today, as his daughter, I will say this. Airtel is a mission within itself, one that is so intrinsically woven into the fabric of the country that the economic revolution of India simply cannot be told without the Airtel story. And what a story it is. One that was built at the back of a possessed man whose romance with telecom has set us all alight. There was nothing stopping him from the time he woke till he slept. Actually, I believe even while he slept. Every second of every day, he has been committed to making his whole life masterful, not just his work. I believe a true reflection of a man is how he conducts himself in private, and I can tell you, he is nothing short of a class act. His astronomical focus to excel on the simple and small acts of everyday life, the discipline in his daily routine and the repetition of that routine, be it his exercise or ensuring his inbox is clear of every single task he must tackle that very day, or simply the way he unwraps a bar of chocolate for his grandchildren and the precision with how he does it. And my God, he has one of the most curious minds of anyone I have ever known. He has this desire to consume knowledge and information all the time. And if he is not satisfied with an answer to a question that he asks any one of his children, we can be sure as hell sure we're going to be engaged in a presidential standard debate with him that can rival the White House. And I tell you something, he has more stamina than all three of us put together. And then, of course, the ceaseless hours devoted to his work. He has always been unable and is still incapable of switching off. And as a result, his work came home with him. Dinner table conversations, the morning rush when we were leaving for school, weekends, evenings, the few holidays we had together as a family, you name it. Business, telecom, and having a purpose in life was the fulcrum of every single conversation. It was evident right from when we were children, from everything that he said to us, that for him, being in business and doing business was about impact, sincerity, service, and the betterment of society. The recognition, the fame, the power, and all the bells and whistles that came along with it were a total sideshow for him. I remember as a young girl coming down in my pajamas to say goodnight to him. And I would often hear his voice echoing through the house. And I would press my little face against the frosted living room door, and I would find him in a meeting, even at night. While most children would fall asleep to bedtime stories of monsters and fairy tale myths, I used to fall asleep to the words network, signal, spectrum, data, connection, 2G, 3G, roaming, vibrating through my mind. However, despite his relentless pace of work, I somehow never felt his absence. Perhaps I knew he was on the cusp of birthing an institution. He was effective in whatever little time he had with me, and each interaction, he would impart his art of living. He was a stickler for good manners and respect. A fit body was non-negotiable. Mediocrity, oh, that word didn't exist in our house. Don't get me wrong. He thought it was important that we had setbacks, that it grafted our characters. But he taught us to go down, giving it our 1,000%. He has been hell-bound on imparting his values to his children. He believes life has to be lived with grit, but with grace and gratitude in tow. But his work was his life, and his life is his work. Every Sunday lunch, we had a standing reservation at our favorite Italian restaurant. And what would my father say to us? Tomorrow is Monday morning, and it is the most delightful day of my week, because I get to be behind my desk, and I get to do what I love most. And those Monday mornings sure came. As my mother says, when he comes down those stairs and starts to have his morning tea and do his tie, he becomes unrecognizable to me. It is as if he takes on the avatar of a man whose calling is far greater than the ordinary. It is one thing to build a business in a country like India, and it is another to find that you are constantly brought to the line of fire. Twists and turns are part of any success story, but what he has endured has been nothing short of grueling. Those telecom wars, as you know better than me, were existential. The brutal knocks from every corner and the attacks that came blazing down. I will never forget my visit to the local market to meet with my friends for a casual ice cream. And as I was leaving, the magazine store next door caught my attention. It had the Business World magazine displayed all over its stands. Telecom King under attack, it read, with a picture of my father seated behind a chessboard. I remember this wave of uneasiness that filled my body. But then it occurred to me that he never complained. Not once, not ever. There was never this mention of, but why is this happening to me? Or how am I going to tolerate this? Never. You know, they say pessimists complain about the wind. Optimists believe the winds will change. But leaders, well, leaders adjust their sails. And the more severe the attacks became, the bigger a shock absorber he grew to be, the taller he stood, and the more duty-bound he felt. His persistence, his perseverance, and his ability to navigate life in the darkest of valleys was beyond our own comprehension. We watched him from the closest quarters at home. He was ready to speak truth to the power. It was then we realized he was about to claim his membership amongst the greatest warriors. His ability to withstand that intensity of pressure and scrutiny somehow started to become background noise. And I'll tell you how he did it. His innate faith in the divine, but more importantly, his people. His unwavering belief in his teams, in his people, in Team Airtel has been one of the most inspiring learnings of my own lifetime. He would constantly say to me, my job is to ensure I keep the faith, because Team Airtel can never be defeated. They have lived and breathed this journey with me. And so I will keep forging ahead, if anything, for them. He is the biggest people's person of anyone I have ever known. So much so, the emphasis of which was so deeply ingrained into my brothers and I, that we have grown up believing, and rightly so, that Airtel belongs to the people on this journey with him, not us. And speaking of people, there is one person in particular I need to acknowledge today. A woman of Indian descent who hails from Scotland, born just 45 minutes from where we are all gathered today. And yes, Mum, isn't it just amazing that the celebration of Airtel, mighty and victorious, has come home to your birthplace? Life really does come 360. I thank you today for the depth of your sacrifice, your devotion, and for being Dad's biggest strength. You have been his safety bunker. And Dad, I could go on, but you did give me a time limit. I haven't even spoken about the kindness, the love, and the compassion that lives within your soul. I thank you today for being the most extraordinary father a daughter could ever have asked for. I want you to know that wherever I go in this world, I will carry your heart in my heart.
It's my approach to work or to life in general. A lot of people talk about live your life as if it's your last day. All of you must have heard this. So many people tell you, live your life as if your last day. I completely disagree. Because if you truly believed it's your last day, you will make wrong decisions. You will make rash decisions. And then you're going to live anyway. You live long enough, and then you'll regret what you did. My philosophy has always been for every day of my life, to see it as the first day of my life. Every day when I wake up, it's honestly the first day of my life, because I look towards the future. I'm so excited about the future. I'm so excited about what's going to happen next. I'm also conscious of my age. I wish I was 30, I was 40, but that's not in my control. But every morning when I wake up as if this is my first day. I'm so excited because I want to look forward. And I can tell you, it is only when you start to live every day as your first day, then you can have, transformative powers, you can move things forward, you can plan for future, because you'll take decisions which you will enjoy going into the future. It leaves a very, very deep impact. In my case, I spot a diminisher in a mild radius. I am an illuminator. My job is to be having a positive energy all the time. Whenever somebody comes with me with a big problem, cannot be done, oh God, my whole body sort of rises up. I said, okay, this is my moment now. I said, it can be done. I don't even know the problem. I said, give it to me. We'll solve it. We'll find a way out of it. And when it's given to me by very competent people, lawyers, company secretaries, others, I go through the Companies Act. It's that thick. I could have never imagined that in my days of education, I could have even read pages of that. I go through any book or any details, and I will come with a solution. 99% there will be a solution, because if you're an illuminator, you think positive. You think that you can find a way through it. You can break through or breach the wall, however thick that is. But if you're a diminisher, you just hold yourself back. Never start with a no. Always start with a yes. And then if you have to be dragged to a no, it's fine. There will be occasions when you will have no chance of saying, all right, fine, I give up. But don't start with a no, because you don't even know how far you can go in that process. That, to my mind, becomes extremely important. And the world has both. Every company has both. In Airtel, what we call these illuminators is can-do. All of you are familiar with this can-do attitude. You give anything to Airtel, however tough, difficult it is, they'll say, can be done. We'll do it. That can-do attitude is what makes Airtel, to my mind. And that we have to preserve. I worked very closely with one General Mehta, who was my Director General. I was the chairman of CII. We used to travel occasionally together. And I used to ask him how, and he was active in 2 wars, give me a sense of a good general. How did a good general operate in the warfare? And he told me something that I always remember. He said a true general is the one who goes ahead of the team and leads from the front, but does not just stay there, because he could march ahead so much that his team has fallen behind. Occasionally, he needs to circle all the way back, go behind them, and push them from behind, because teams need to be pushed as well. And never forget that in between, keep on going in the amidst of them to ensure that you are part of them, how they're feeling. And these are the 3 formations I've done practically all my life. While we are a very, very strong shareholder-led company between Bharti and Singtel, but we are an institution. We are a people's company, but we are entrepreneurial at our heart. We take decisions. Yesterday, Gopal spoke about how we defied the odds by not going for CDMA, not launching paging industry, not going for BWA. I can go on, and Akhil's famous outsourcing of network and IT. Nobody can take this decision if you're just a pure large institution. That entrepreneurial spirit is so important. Sarajit, I don't know where he is, he codified this when he was deep in Airtel. He said, Sunil, there are 4 phases: EE, EP, PE, and PP. By that he meant was an entrepreneur-led and entrepreneur-supported. That's your first phase. You are doing everything yourself. You have nobody to sort of support you, small band of people building a company. That was Airtel in the right first 1 or 2 years. And from there you move to entrepreneur-led, professionally supported. I moved into that phase very, very quickly. And then even more quicker, we moved to the 3rd phase, where most of Indian family-owned companies have never been able to move. It's a PE, professionally led, entrepreneur-supported. And he told me, Sunil, for God's sake, please ensure this stops at that point.
never go into PP, which is professionally managed and professionally supported. He says, this company will get destroyed. So we have to hold that. Professionally led, entrepreneurially supported. And I don't need to be the only entrepreneur in the room. Each one of you are entrepreneurial. That is very important to my mind to keep. Most important feature, which I call the Brahmastra, the omnipotent weapon that is Airtel. The reason why we are here today is the people. Is all of you and those nearly 70, 80,000 people who are all attached to you in some form or shape in India, in the remotest corner, in Africa, Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, in Channel Islands. That's our power. That power no one can take from us. And I always used to say, I've mentioned this to Amrita, I've mentioned to her predecessors, how do we bottle this? There is something that we do right in Airtel. How do we bottle this? I've asked Gopal this question. I said, we need to work and put this into a code. And I think we have found the code. Gopal actually spoke about it yesterday, and me and Gopal had not spoken. And I think the penny drops. The code is very clear now. The essence of our Brahmastra people is that everybody, each person, feels like an owner. And they are actually the owners. I have always said that our people are a real power behind us to succeed in the marketplace. 16, 17, 18 years, some of you have been there, Akhil was there, Rajan was there, I'm sure. I made a very revealing sort of pivot. I said, we will move away from customer first to employee first. If you remember Gopal's presentation yesterday, he spoke about we are a customer-obsessed company. Of course we are. But I said we will pivot to employee first. And there was a horrified, everybody was horrified. How can you do that? That is not what a customer service company can be. You have to be customer first. And there's a big debate we had. I said, no, it's got to be employee first, customer second, shareholder third, promoters last. But that's how we have to finish this debate today. Because my simple equation was, if our people are not happy, there is no way in the world I can make customers happy. It's impossible. Today you see those large, storied companies which used to respect and worship them. Where are they today? They talk about customer first, each one of them. But the people are not motivated. And in Airtel, I know how many people say, please open it on a Sunday, we want to come and work. Because they're not working for anybody else, they're working for themselves. Just like I am working for myself, you're all working for yourself. You are the true owners. And that is the codification of this one, that ownership we should never lose. In India, this is in the psyche of people. This is absolutely inside the people's hearts and minds. In Africa, it's work in progress. And the reason for that is, it is Mo's company, and I know people have deep attachment to Mo, people have attachment to founders. Then it moved on to Zain, and then we bought from Zain. This is the third avatar of Airtel Africa, and there was in Nigeria, I think one more, four versions in Nigeria. So it gets hard, but it's getting there. And each one of you should carry a message from here today, transfer that sensation. And Gopal, I don't know if you remember or not, sometime 2016, 17, I had come for a town hall in Airtel. We had a huge assemblage out there. And I was speaking to them, and again, I was kind of picking up energy from the room. And I usually always saw in everybody's forehead, in a matter of speaking, I am Airtel. That was the first day. And you had just kind of, this is actually, no, not 2017, 18, this was earlier, when you had just come in 2013, 14, at that time. And I said, there is something missing here. What were they reading on their forehead? I work for Airtel. I said, my God, when did this change? I've been sleeping on the wheel. And I made that speech and I said, I see I work for Airtel. This is a big loss to this company. That evening or next morning, Gopal's first mail which went out, it had at the bottom a nicely monogrammed logo, I am Airtel. I don't know, Gopal, you remember that or not. And the whole company shifted. It was back to I am Airtel. He brought that whole energy back. And that, to my mind, is what we need to retain. If we can retain that, there is nobody in the world which can come and hit us and take advantage of us. Because if each one of you take those decisions as owners, you will take the right decisions. And we all will make mistakes. I make mistakes. All of us will make mistakes. But if we take decisions as if I own this company, then you are in safe hands today and forever. We have been small as a company. I think it was mentioned by Boria that we've always acted as a small company. Even though we are big, we don't feel that big, honestly. We really feel like a small company. And I have always lived with this adage, quote of Mahatma Gandhi, which goes like, a small body of determined spirits fired by an unquenchable faith in their mission can alter the course of history. You, my friends, are a living embodiment to that adage.